Hello and welcome to another edition of Meet the Leader, brought to you by the UONGOZI Institute. I'm your host, Wamaka Kifukwe. For tonight's program, we have the honor and privilege of interviewing His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, President of the Federal Republic of Somalia. The following is the first of a two-part recording filmed in Mogadishu. Enjoy the show. Tonight, we're extremely honored to be here in Mogadishu, joined by His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, President of the Federal Republic of Somalia. Your Excellency, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And thank you for hosting us. So I just want to start off by understanding a bit about your background. Was there anything in your childhood or early years or how you grew up that's inspired or influenced the way that you lead, that you practice leadership?
Yes, there are always there are lessons to be learned for the earlier life of someone who just want to lead a nation or a society. I was a sort of orphan. My father died when I was 10, and my mother brought me up. And then it was the Somali government, the state, that brought me up. I have been studied from elementary school to the university to make master's degree, all through a free education, all of them. When I finished the secondary school, I was given a scholarship to the Somali National University. When I finished that university, I was given a guaranteed employment. I was immediately employed. The day I graduated, the day I started working, there was only 10 days that I in between. And then by working a couple of years, then I was given a scholarship, master's degree to outside world, given by my government. So that makes me someone who has been built by the state, not by his father, not by clan, not by any other association. So that makes me a strong affiliation to the state and the government of Somalia. Then as a professional and a lecturer in the university, we lost the state. Somali state collapsed in 1991. And then I keep continuing on serving the community as educator, reviving the Somali education system, moving around. Later on joined a research team that has been working on the reconstruction of Somalia, in the social reconstruction, political reconstruction, economic reconstruction. I have traveled extensively all over Somalia, each region and each district. All this put together makes me feel that it's a duty for me to stand up and do whatever difference I can make. In the last 20 years, I've been working mainly in the education and the humanitarian, besides being a researcher and later on research coordinator of a project program. That was what I was feeling, that I was contributing to the well-being of the Somali nation at the difficult times. But later on, I realized that problem is not problem of service delivery, it's not problem of economy, it's a problem of politics. And what's very important to do was to fix the political system of Somalia, the collapsed political system of Somalia. I did that as a civil society activist, organizing a awareness shop, establishing pressure groups on the politicians. All these have been trial and error. We tried. It really, in many cases, it worked. In my years of working in the education, it helped a lot. Today, there are a large number of graduates. I was teaching them in the secondary schools, in the university. I was the dean of one of the biggest universities in Mogadishu today. So I have a lot of people who have been given opportunity by my effort. So, and I always been proud of that. But even then I realized that those that had got the opportunity, they still lack something, which is a functioning Somali state. That is what inspired me and makes me to look and think about how can we build a functioning state in Somalia.
Yeah. But I mean, there were lots of activists and academicians and technocrats who left Somalia when the state collapsed, very unfortunately. What really inspired you to stay, and at any point did you consider leaving?
Well, that is the thing initially, by being someone who is, number one, self-made, and then number two, someone who has been supported throughout his life by the state. So I was feeling that those who were like me, who lost their father or their mother or their family at the early stage of their life, who is going to give the opportunity and the chances I got? And these are the bulk of the lost generations in the last 20 years. And I feel as a duty that I was invested by the state, by the nation. Somalia invested me. So I have to pay back. And I have tried as an educator, as a researcher, as a peace builder, as a civil society activist. And then was the final stage, the final trial, and attempted to do for fixing the Somali state. That's what made me. Maybe those who you're talking about, maybe they were people who enjoyed the caring of their family, investment from their family. They have been educated by their families. But me, I was different. And still, I remain different. When everybody left, I remained in Somalia. I was moving in Mogadishu from one corner. Mogadishu is 16 districts. There is no one single district I didn't leave at one time in the last, because I was moving from one place. When there is a conflict in this district, move to the other, move to the other. That was the coping mechanism that we've been doing. So this is actually what made me, I feel, and still I'm feeling, that the sense of responsibility in me, that I'm unable to pay back what this nation did for me. That is what still motivating me.
And what is your vision for Somalia then?
Well, there are so many good things that I would like to see in Somalia, but the two most important things that I feel that everything encompasses in these two areas or these domains is a united Somalia. Right now, Somalia is fragmented, disunited. I would like to see a united Somalia as a one republic, whatever it is, federal, unitary, centralized, whatever, but one republic, Somalia. Number two is stable Somalia. Stable in terms of politics, in terms of security, and in terms of economy. These are the long-term vision that I'm pursuing, whether I reach the final stage or whether I put the foundations for that long-term vision.
What have you identified as the key priority sectors that you're targeting as president, but also in terms of your broader engagement?
Before I was elected, I prepared a manifesto that I call it the 6-pillar policy framework. Those 6 pillars were the priority areas that I was saying to get the end, that ultimate goal, which is united Somalia and stable Somalia. In order to reach that, these pillars were the foundations for the way forward. Among them was security and the rule of law, priority area, the public finance management and reform, the justice and the judiciary system, the economic recovery, the social service delivery, the unity of the country, and the international relations. And everything we're doing from that day since I became the president is one way or the other linked to one pillar or the other, and it serves that ultimate goal of seeing one day a united Somalia and a stable Somalia.
Sure. And what are the major challenges that are in your way or that you have to overcome to achieve this vision, in your opinion?
The challenges are enormous and too many. Among them is the prolonged statelessness. This situation that Somalia remained in more than 2 decades now. See, January next year, 2015, is the 25th year since the Somali state collapsed. That's quarter of a century. It's a long, long time for the life of the individual, a human being. Now imagine a boy who was grade 3 or grade 4 in the elementary school, 10 years old in 1990, today is 35 years old. And there are statistical estimates that says 65% of the Somali population are below 35 years old. So these are what we call it the lost generations. Those who lost opportunity to get education, training, nothing. They are there. Most probably these boys, they got now families, kids and wife. They don't have the tools of life in them. These are the kind of force we are going to use to build a Somali state. People who has no experience whatsoever, what is a state? What a functional state looks like? What are the opportunities that one can get out of a functioning state? People who got experience it and know only to be loyal to their clans, to their groups, but not a bigger phenomenon called state. Number two, because of the prolonged state of the situation. Now, different forces, no place will ever become a vacuum. When the state left, some other forces filled the gap. That's why we have now Islamist groups, that's why we have now clan groups, that's why, so this fragmentation is another challenge, very serious one. Most of the people who were supposed to be loyal to the state today in Somalia are not loyal to the state, but they are loyal to something else, mainly. That's number one. The bulk of the population, they want outside Somalia, in the West mainly. They studied there, they have seen a life there, and many of them now they came back. Again, these people, they have another mindset which is contrary to the one I have been describing now. Living in London, Minnesota, Washington, and getting back to Mogadishu today is two incompatible things. So they're a bit confused again. Very knowledgeable, qualified, maybe they have economic base, but lacks understanding of the local dynamics and the situation under which they want to operate. So the second group is this. In a post-conflict environment, normally the situation is people who are scared of the violence. They have been subjected to very extreme violence and they are scared. But there are other groups, interest groups, who have been benefiting the status quo, who are scared by the peace. When they saw that there is a peace in the horizon, they get scared because they feel that they may lose the interests that they have been building for the last 20 years. So these groups put together at the social aspect is the major challenge we're facing right now as the federal government of Somalia. That's the social sector. In the economy, a society that has been working informal economy for over 2 decades, no taxation system, no fiscal policy, no set budgets, no control mechanism. So again, in the economic sector, this is it. Free to do everything, no quality control, and so people do everything freely. Now when you come and said, now we're going to establish a state, and these are the state institutions, and this is what you are supposed to do and what you are not supposed to do, then again, that's another challenge facing the people.
But just to zero in on the security situation in Somalia, which unfortunately is one that is so well known, how is it impacting on your ability as a government, as a fledgling state, to deliver sustainable development?
Right now, it's the major obstacle on the way forward. In politics, in economic recovery, everything, security is a major challenge. We have 2 sets of challenges of security. One set is the challenges created by the anarchy, statelessness. That's security challenge. Illegal road bounties, violences, raids, sexual violence, rape, theft. All these are insecurity that has been created by the anarchy. And we have still struggling with the residues of these type of insecurity, but they are diminishing very fast. The other type, the other set of challenges of security is the one brought by the terrorists. Somalia being a vacuum area, these forces, they fill that vacuum. They use the grievances of the society for different reasons as a vehicle to implement their intentions and their ideology. So both of them, which the major one is the one created by the terrorist groups, not the one created by the anarchy, is the one that's proving very challenging. The insecurity created by the anarchy can be addressed through traditional mechanism and so many other ways, and we did most of it. But the one that is created by the terrorists, which has an ideology based, and ideologies have no citizenship. So the terrorists here in Somalia, operating here in Somalia, are not Somalis only, but African, European, Asians, Americans, all of them. The only difference is that Somalia is their base where they operate. Why? Because there is no functioning state that controls all the territory of Somalia. They were controlling 90% of Somalia. That space have shrunk now, and they control only remote parts of Somalia, and it's going on. Now they've come up with a new phase, which is not a military, but terror, suicide bombing, targeted assassinations, roadside bombs, things like that, which definitely I'm sure that it will end, but it will take some time until it ends up.
Yeah, so that allows you then to start this process of national reconciliation, I imagine. What progress is being made in that area?
First of all, of course, this is a society that has been in conflict over almost 2 decades. Sometimes active conflict, sometimes dormant, passive conflict, or whatever. So the issue of trust is not there. Addressing the bitter memories of the past is there. Mistrust among the society, mistrust to the state, because we have a history of predatory state that abuses the power, the public, the legal power, that abuses the public resources and all this. So now there is a true mistrust. That's one among the society as a result of the war, and one which is towards the state itself. People afraid of the state, what the state would look like, how it will behave when we make sure that there is a functioning state. So addressing this can be done only through reconciliation, social reconciliation, political reconciliation. But when you know that when you make a trust building between 2 clans or 2 groups, and then an outlaw person can come, kill someone, and because of the past, that person will not become a criminal who killed an innocent citizen, but he become clan X, killed clan Y, and the conflict relapses. This is the challenge again in terms of the reconciliation. We need a time to make sure, if there is no the rule of law, that if someone kills someone, that's a criminal. It takes through the process and to the court of law. Unless we get that, I'm not sure that we will have a fully reconciled society. But the reconciliation is a continuous process. It's going on. The political reconciliation have been, a lot of good work has been done. A number of reconciliation efforts has been made. Ending the transition in 2012 was a whole process of reconciliation, getting together, dialoguing among the society on the provisional constitution, on the power sharing formula, on all this has come through reconciliation, political reconciliation. But reconciliation is not an event, it's an ongoing process. It may take years. So it already started and it's going on.
I wanted to come to this, the Somali peace process, because as you had mentioned, and you came into power in September 2012, and that was at the end of a long transition phase. So what are your plans now to conclude this phase of the peace process, and then what comes next?
I'm not sure that we will conclude the peace process in 1 term or so, after 2 decades of problem. But what we're doing is now, since 2010, when the first transitional government was built, established in Djibouti, 2010, since then there was successive transitional governments in place. And in 2012 was the end of the transitional period. Now, by ending the transition, does not mean that everything is finished. Yes, we went through a long process. Yes, we concluded the transition, but still there is a lot of transitional tasks that are remaining, and we continue. One of them is the provisional constitution. The constitution we have right now is a provisional constitution, and many other issues needs to complete. So we develop it right now, what we call it the Vision 2016, framework for action, what we call it. Vision 2016 came out of a political consultation, a platform, forum that the government, the federal government established here in Mogadishu, whereby the diaspora, the different sectors of the society, all has been invited to dialogue on the political future of Somalia. The result of that was a proposal for the way forward, which we call it later on, the Vision 2016. That is when the term, my term, the term of this government is ending. So Vision 2016 consists of 3 tracks, which is built to go parallelly. One is completion and implementation of the provisional constitution to make it a permanent constitution. The second track is federalism, making sure that the country, the federal system is established in Somalia. Number 3 is the democratization, which is designing appropriate electoral system to Somalia, establishing the political party law and those elements that follows for this democratization. So these 3 tracks are parallel and going together. There are independent constitutional commission that will be running these issues, and the oversight committee from the parliament, and then the civil society. That is where we wanted 2016 elections to take place in Somalia. Definitely we are very much committed, and we want and we believe that we can make that sure that elections will happen in 2016. You know why? These elections, if we succeed to happen, is taking place after 45 years. The last time that a Somali citizen put into the ballot box his vote was 1969. That's 45 years. Again, it's another set of challenges that comes out.
Sure.
What are elections? How can elections be fair? Can I trust? So there is a lot of questions that the Somali people may ask, but even then, we want this to begin. Nothing starts with perfection, but we are so committed that in August, September 2016, elections will happen in Somalia.
Right. And just to shift the focus on other sort of development or development-related challenges in Somalia, the issue of internally displaced peoples is a very prominent one here. What steps are being taken to ensure that those Somalians who have been or who are IDPs are able to return to more normal lives, as it were?
Number 1 is security. We need to make sure that the places where these people have been displaced is secure enough that they can go. Many of them will be very difficult to go back because they lost the stability of their life. So they have to be supported. Many of them, they were sedentary agricultural communities. Many of them were nomadic society who lost their livestock. So it's a process again. But the basic thing that without which, even if we get millions of dollars support for the IDPs to go back, they will not go back unless we make sure that the security is number 1. Number 2, that is they can get some sort of basic services in their areas. For that purpose, the government has put in place a policy whereby each district we make a minimum basic service delivery standard for each district and community. 5 projects has to be implemented in each district. That's minimum. Some districts may have more, but no district should have less than that. That's one school, elementary school, one water well, one health center, a police station, and district administration complex whereby the courts, the municipalities, all are housed. So the government is implementing that program in each district. The first 10 districts now is under, these 5 projects going under construction, and subsequently we improve so that the IDPs can go there, and when they go back there, they have a place called school to send their kids, a place called a health center whereby a mother can go and treat them. That's the IDPs, and also that also is a part of the refugees, not the IDPs. We have an estimated 2 million Somalis who are either refugees in the neighboring countries or IDPs inside Somalia, put together. So moving 2 million people back to their traditional home area is a very, very huge task and very complex. But this is the beginning. This is how we initiated to begin it. Then we established the National Agency for Refugees and the Repatriation of the Refugees and the IDPs, who will work this with the concerned agencies of the government. We have signed a tripartite agreement with the United Nations High Commission for Refugee, UNHCR, and the government of Kenya, whereby the largest refugee Somalis are housed. Because we don't believe that Somalia will ever get stability unless these people go back to their, of course, demographic changes will always be there. All of the people will not go back to their places, but what we want is that people to feel comfortable that they can go back to their traditional. So this is how we see the IDPs.
It should also be noticed that actually, despite all these challenges in Somalia, you do have a very vibrant entrepreneurial community that is actually succeeding in a number of sectors. What is the government doing to support Somali entrepreneurs?
Of course, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we call it the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Investment Promotion. This investment is not for the foreigners only, but for the Somalis also, who, when they were unable to practice business inside Somalia, took whatever resources they have to the neighboring countries, to the Middle East, to the Gulf, to Europe and North America. Yes, it's a challenge to convince these people or create a conducive environment that attracts them to get back. It's a very serious challenge, among which the most prominent one among these challenges is security. But even then, today, having no perfect security still in Somalia, people are coming back, investing back. If you move in Mogadishu today, you will see new hotels, new malls, new small factories that are now emerging. And all this has been brought back by people who came back from the outside world. So this entrepreneurial society is an asset for Somalia, and the government knows that. We're developing all the necessary legal system that attracts them to come back, number one. Number two, the government is ready to provide them where they invest. Now in Mogadishu, for the first time, Somalis and South Africans jointly, the real estate company, private, building 1,000 houses in the suburbs of Mogadishu. So the government has provided the land. Those who wanted to invest in the agricultural sector were ready to provide. Somalia as the envelope. This is a very rich country, but the circumstances make our people very poor. We wanted the private sector to lead the development, and the government mainly focus on the regulatory framework of this development.
Thank you for watching the first of the two-part interview with His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, President of the Federal Republic of Somalia. Join us again next week for the conclusion of the interview. Good night.